Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Good? All right, great. Thanks to the club for giving me time to talk about my never-ending journey with the Beech Grove garter snake Hibernaculum. For those of you who are not familiar with the location of this Hibernaculum, it's located next to the beach at the trailhead section of the Boundary Bay Dyke Trail, or the Beech Grove section of the Boundary Bay Dyke Trail. The Dyke Trail follows along the ocean front mostly and goes up over here with the farm fields alongside it and heads out all the way to Mud Bay. Here is the Beech Grove community, and down over here we have Boundary Bay Park and Centennial Beach. This strip of granite rocks is where the snakes display in the spring and fall, and also hibernate under these rocks during the winter months. The rock area is about 100 feet long and 8 feet wide. Back in 2015, these snakes gained some fame when dike repair work was being done at this spot. These rocks are all new. They were put there in 2015. The school children at the local school were concerned about their snakes. So a local resident, who was also a teacher at the school, alerted the city to their presence. At the time, the resident thought that there may be a few dozen snakes at these rocks that were hibernating, but during the rescue of the snakes, it was discovered that there were over 500 of them. Wildlife Rescue said it was the largest discovery of its kind in BC. Today, we don't know how many garter snakes may be inhabiting the rocks. The Hibernaculum has 3 species of garter snakes. The coloring of the garter snakes can vary, but what you see in these pictures is the usual coloring that we see for the ones at the rock. This one here is the Western terrestrial that displays in a light gray-green color, and the majority of the snakes at the rocks are this species. The common garter snake can show great intensities of red and yellow along the length of its body, and the northwestern shows in a brownish color. At our rocks, there are 3 snakes that I think are very special. This picture here of a group of Western terrestrials maybe doesn't look so exciting. However, if you were standing at the rocks looking at this like I was, you would have been shocked. This snake here, I've named Grandma, and she's exceptionally large. Her body width is at least 1.5 inches wide, and all her friends around her here are regular sized snakes, and they are about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch wide. Garter snakes grow throughout their lifespan, so I imagine that Grandma must be a very wise old snake. This is Olive, and her overall green coloring makes her very special. She's not unique at the rocks. There are maybe 1 or 2 others that I've seen who look like her, and they have red on them. So my best guess is that she is a variety of the common garter snake. This is another picture of a common garter snake that I've named Carmen. And it's the first time that I've seen this solid gold coloring on a common garter snake. The gold color is not really coming through right now on the screen here. But the day that I saw her on top of the rocks was a bright blue sky day, and the gold bars on her body glistened just like gold all the way down. So come this spring, I'm going to be on the lookout for these 3 snakes. And as well, I hope that I get to see some new interesting ones to get pictures of. I'm going to show you a couple of slides of some happenings at the rocks this past last spring. Last spring, the snakes changed things up on me by scattering all around the rocks, along here, on the grasses, in the back area, just everywhere. And in the previous years, they had kept themselves to this area here of the rocks. So it was really easy viewing for them and really easy for me to monitor them. But now I was going to have to monitor them from the trail as well as on the beach side. So I got some help by setting up this cone barrier fence that was really effective at keeping the dogs away, a distance away from where the snakes may be basking or mating along this edge here. The only dogs it didn't work for were the off-leash dogs, and they just hopped over it and then explored the rock edge. This picture displays the backside of the rocks next to the beach. With the help of the orange cone fence up on the trail, I was freed up to come down to the beach and watch the snakes with caregivers and their young children at the Snakes Alive Outdoor Theater. Have to take advantage of these things when you see it. The children sat on the sitting log here that was conveniently placed there by the winter king tide, about 6 feet away from the edge of the rocks. Sometimes I confuse, the space between these blue brackets is about 12 feet wide, and the slim gray snakes would frantically move around in this space here, looking for the elusive female snake. And sometimes a confused snake would come off the backside and come and head right towards the children. The instruction, don't move or you'll scare the snake away, didn't come from me, but a 4-year-old boy who sternly gave it to the other children on the log. One time the children did such a good job sitting still that a snake came down right up to their feet and slithered by. I've been observing the snakes for 3 years now. Oh, it's missing. This is 2023, 2024, and 2025. So this is some data collection that I've been doing. I do have some other stuff that I've not thrown in here. I'll comment on some of the things that I find interesting and break it down for you by the seasons. This is during the winter. It's not unusual for a snake to come up and bask in the sunshine. However, in 2024, in the month of February, I observed 7 snakes that were out, and it was very cold temperatures. I was still wearing all my winter gear. It really concerned me because I could see injuries on all of these snakes. It was way too soon for the spring emergence. That didn't happen until March 12th. I was able to collect 4 of the snakes, and I took them to wildlife rescue. And their medical assessments indicated that the snake's injuries were way too serious to be treatable. And so they never made the return trip home to the Hibernaculum. I was really relieved to see that in the winter of 2025, there wasn't a repeat of this winter activity. It's interesting. Hold on. Sorry. It's interesting that over the last 3 years, the spring emerge has occurred approximately 1 week sooner than its previous year. The spring of 2023 was a boom year. Looks like my pointer has given up on me. Okay, we'll have to do without. The spring of 2023 was a boom year for the snake count that I did, which is the number of snakes that I count when I do one walkabout the entire rocks. And in that year, I counted 78 plus. It was probably much higher because at that time I wasn't very good at snake counting, and I've gotten much better since. The temperature in that spring were like summer. It was very, very hot. I was wearing a t-shirt and got a suntan by the end of April. I wasn't tracking the number of mating balls then, but I do remember seeing a lot of mating activity that year. The first mating event that I saw at the rocks happened that spring at the beginning of the spring, or at the beginning of the mating period. And it was a spectacular event. I was standing at the end of the rocks watching a few snakes that were huddled in the grasses. And then suddenly the ground around me became alive with all these snakes coming from all directions around me. And they moved fast, and they all landed on that one spot in the grasses. They then created a mating tower with snakes piled up on top of each other, and it wiggled furiously. The action lasted about a minute or so, and then as sudden as it began, the snakes all took off and disappeared into the grasses and the rocks around me. And I was left wondering, it all happened so darn fast that I was left wondering, did I really see that? When I got home that day, I wrote it up real quick. Before all that happened, I had no inkling at all that there were so many snakes in the grasses and the rocks around me. So when you're at the rocks, you just never know what it is that you're going to see. After the snakes mate, they migrate to their summer homes in the surrounding residential area and the farm fields. Trail walkers will see the snakes crossing over the trail, heading for the farm fields. Then in the early fall, they migrate back to the Hibernaculum to hibernate under the rocks during the winter months. This past winter, 2025, it was early December, last sighting at the Hibernaculum, December 6th, when I saw the last snake at the rocks. It was a very long migration period back to the rocks. It's now spring 2026. When it's spring at the rocks, you know it. The snakes emerge from their underground den, and as well, we get to watch horses galloping in the bay in front of us. The other picture on the left there is me with a miniature horse called Scarlet. And this happened just this past Sunday when I was at the rocks attending to my duty. And Scarlet is a very mischievous 3-year-old miniature horse. She behaves like a dog. When she is out on the bay running with her owner, when she sees people on the beach, she comes running up to the beach in order to get attention from them. So I abandoned the snakes a little bit in order to play with her. Once again this spring, the snakes have surprised me by emerging earlier than last year by 4 days, starting on February 24th. As well, I observed that the snakes are moving quickly. And it's very different from the previous years when in the first week of emerge, they would move very sluggishly. It also looks like this spring, the snakes are favoring the rock groove that's at the edge of the trail. So that's good. It means people get good viewing of the snakes if they can see them. But then it becomes a bit of a challenge to make sure that the snakes are safe. It's possible that with the startup of the spring emerge on February 24, it's now March 3rd. It's a weekend. It's possible that the emerge lasts for another week, according to my record keeping, and then the mating period will begin. And the mating period that can last a week or two. And I'm hoping that this year it will be longer, so we have a lot more mating activity happening. If you know of anyone who could help me out during this peak time at the rocks, please be in touch or just show up at the rocks. Everybody's welcome. On weekdays, the best viewing of the snakes is the early afternoon when the trail isn't so busy with people. And the trail becomes very busy on weekdays after 3 o'clock and on the weekends during the afternoon, which is when I really need the help. So thank you very much. That's my little talk about the snakes, but I do have a couple more things to show you here. This picture I took on Sunday when I was at the rocks, and unfortunately there, look at that, there. Right here is a garter snake basking in the grass right next to the trail. And without a trained eyes like mine, you might not see it. So with the snakes basking on the grass and into the rock grooves in here, they do become, people just don't realize that they can be there and can walk on them. Cycles can zoom up and park their bikes. Dogs can walk over them. And anyways. So that I thought was a neat picture to show you. The next thing to show you, this is a video that I took back in 2023 on my cell phone, which will show you the movement of a snake when it has emerged from its den in the early spring emerge. Now, there we go. Here is the snake right here. And I haven't used any slow motion. This is what it's doing. So you can see from this video and from the previous picture just how vulnerable these snakes are to people feet, to cycle tires, and why they need to be protected. This only lasts about a minute. Here it is here. Right there. just moving ever so slowly. You can see how easy it would be to pick it up. So that's a Western terrestrial snake that we're looking at there with the light, pale green-gray color. And you can see how well it blends in there with the plant, with the grass and dry grass material. That's it there. So thank you all.
Jim had a question.